Gideon v. Wainwrigtht, 1963. It all started when Clarence Earl Gideon was first charged with breaking and entering with the intent to commit a misdemeanor, which is technically a felony under Florida law. Given his past of being in and out of prison, he was considered a drifter and had no source of income. So when it came time for his trial, he had no money to afford an attorney. The trial. During the trial, Gideon openly asked for an attorney in court, and the trial judge denied his request. So, at trial, Gideon represented himself and, despite his efforts, was found guilty and was sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment. After the trial, Gideon went on to find relief from his conviction by filling out a petition in the Florida Supreme Court. In this, he challenged his conviction and constitutional right to an attorney. The Florida Supreme Court went on to deny Gideon's petition, which then led him to go to the United States Supreme Court. Having been denied by Florida, Gideon then decided to file a handwritten petition in the United States Supreme Court. They eventually agreed to hear the case to resolve the question of whether the right to counsel guaranteed under the Sixth Amendment applies to defendants in state court. A former decision of the court. Betts v. Brady, 1942, a former decision of the courts, held that the refusal to appoint counsel for an indigent defendant charged with a felony in state court did not necessarily violate the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court agreed to hear Gideon's case and reviewed the decision of the lower court in order to determine whether Betts should be reconsidered. The court held that the Sixth Amendment guarantee of counsel is a fundamental right essential to a fair trial and applies to the states through due process of the 14th Amendment. So, any person hailed into a court who is too poor to hire a lawyer cannot be assured a fair trial unless counsel is appointed to him. The final decision. When the courts finally decided to appoint attorneys for those who cannot afford one, it was then added to the rights read off to those being arrested. In the Miranda rights, it is now clear that if you cannot afford an attorney, one would be appointed to you by the court of law. Implications. Almost 2,000 individuals that had been convicted in Florida alone were freed as a result from the Gideon decision. The result didn't directly free Gideon, but he was given a new trial with the appointment of defense counsel at the government's expense. Gideon chose W.F. Fred Turner to be his lawyer at his second trial. On August 5, 1963, 5 months after the Supreme Court ruling, the retrial took place.
Created using Powtoon.